I believe that God puts people in your life for a purpose. From the doctors and the medical staff that was involved in dealing with my injury, I believe that God put Stacy in my life because God knew that this time would come and would happen, and she was the perfect person for me to get through what needed to be done. I was doing some work for a company. It was the second job that I had at that time. I was doing some work in advertising, and I had walked into her place of employment and gave her my business card, and I fell in love with her right on the spot. Yeah.
Well, if I may be transparent, that's only some of the story. I was the assistant manager at this place where I worked at, and this tall, 6'2", very built man was coming through my front door. And outside the door, it said no solicitation. I said, it says no solicitation. So he kind of chuckled. He's always had a smile. I mean, big as the sky. And then he went on to say, "You're not from here, are you?" And I said, "Need you ask me that?" And he said, "You're not." He said, "Come on, loosen up, loosen up." And then he's like, "Well, I'm Kenny Coleman." He said, "You sure are pretty." And that's when the smile came. So anyway, that's how Kenny and I met. Been together for 20 years and married for 18. At the time of the accident, we were actually separated. Kenny and I have 2 children together, and we were a regular couple that's going through life that experienced some marital challenges. We had met for lunch the very day of this accident, and I said, "Listen, where are we going with all of this?" I said, "I'm ready to call it quits. It's just not working. Let's go ahead and plan in the spring to get a divorce." And he said to me, "No, we're going to work through this." And I just remember looking at him and saying, and he cut me off and told me that day, "We have so much to live for." I've never seen anything like it before. It seems like a robot was inside of a vehicle, because I can clearly tell you no human could have made it through that car the way it was shattered. My life flashed before my eyes because of our children. My heart was just bottomed out. I was just bottomed out at that point. I was like, oh my God. But it also flashed back that I had just seen him that afternoon too.
Kenneth was a motor vehicle accident that was a complex head injury. And by that I mean he had complex facial fractures, so his whole skull had multiple fractures. And his brain injury was a troubling kind of brain injury called diffuse injury. He literally had air, small bubbles of air throughout his brain.
At the time, he had a marginal neurological status. He didn't recognize anybody, just really wasn't expected to have a great outcome at that time, which looked very sad to us because he was a young man.
We realized he'd likely fractured through the optic foramen, or the holes that the nerves going to the eyes go through, injuring the optic nerves. It's hard to take care of these. A neurosurgeon doesn't take care of the face. Oromaxillofacial surgeon takes care of the face, and you have to have a team that can do that. You have to be able to get an airway in someone who has bad facial fractures. That's not always easy, so you have to have a team that's skilled at providing an airway. The resuscitation is extremely complex when you have an injury like this.
It was uncertain how his recovery was going to turn out. he was expected to have a long recovery. So we went ahead and placed a feeding tube and a tracheostomy to help him get off the ventilator quicker.
We watched the intracranial pressure, we watched the blood pressure. You just have to sort of move ahead in faith, but do it very well. You can't give up on it. You just do it very well and see what happens. You don't know if what you've done has succeeded for months or sometimes years.
I remember when I was by myself with him, and I said to him, if you're in there, buddy, you're gonna have to show me something. Well, the first day when they told me this, nothing happened. The second day, nothing happened. But I tell you this, on the third day, that same prayer that I was praying and when I was holding him, and I would go to the side that they told me that he could hear on. And I said, Ken, if you're in there, you need to give me a sign. Move your toe, move your foot. And I promise you with all my might, he moved his foot and he squeezed my hand.
The blessing for me is that God has given me another opportunity to start over and to move forward and to get on the right track with my wife, that we can come back together again and be a family. And I'm so excited about that.
The team itself has been extraordinary. The doctors. In my loneliest moments and when I was here, it wasn't just the doctors who put them back together again. It was the cashier in the cafeteria, the individual who sit at the ICU unit when we decided to shut down all visitation. It was the staff that kept me together.
Everybody has such a special role. And I don't know, I never want to belittle what anyone does. So every once in a while, we all get humbling experiences that make us realize that, this thing is much more than us.
Miami Valley is very well resourced. It is clearly very committed to the care of the injured patient. And that's a cliche in a lot of the trauma world, but it's a reality here.
I just thank God for saving me. And I want to thank the doctors for taking care of me and everything that you guys have done for me when I was on the operating table. I thank you. Thank you so much.